I loved every second of Rise of Skywalker. Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker stars Daisy Ridley, Adam Driver, John Boyega, Oscar Isaac, the late Carrie Fisher, and is directed by J.J. Abrams. What is up, guys? This is my non-spoiler review for The Rise of Skywalker. I literally just got out of this movie. I have reviewed every Star Wars film throughout the course of this year. If you looked at my last one for The Last Jedi Revisited, I did say that after some time passed, my opinions did change on that movie. If you remember, when I first reviewed that movie, my knee-jerk reaction was, I gave it a Trapped on an Island. I was elated. I loved the hell out of it. As time went by, not so much. So, know that going into this non-spoiler review that I just got out of this movie. But the difference this time, I will say, and I don't know if this means anything, but going into Last Jedi, my expectations were really high. I thought that movie was going to be amazing, based on the trailers. Because of the fallout of The Last Jedi, with The Rise of Skywalker, my expectations were pretty low. I went into this movie thinking it was going to be very meh, and it turned out to surprise the hell out of me, actually. So we're going to get into all that. I'm not going to spoil anything in this review. I'm going to be very careful because I know how passionate people are about Star Wars, and I don't want to tell you anything. I just want to let you know really just my thoughts on the movie. But as far as like digging deep plot points, not going to go into that at all. And I thought about, how I usually do like a quick plot synopsis. I'm not even going to give you a plot synopsis because everything about this movie, this franchise is so secretive. And I'm glad I went into this movie not knowing anything. I read some of those blurbs on Twitter. But yeah, anyway, let's get into my thoughts on the movie, okay? This movie had a massive job on its hands to fix the problems of The Last Jedi. No easy task whatsoever. This movie does it. In my opinion, I think this movie really handles a lot of those issues from The Last Jedi, almost retconning some of the issues, but I don't think it necessarily does that. I don't think it dishonors The Last Jedi. I don't at all. I actually think it just is very careful with what happened in The Last Jedi and tries to take some of the issues with some of the major characters in The Last Jedi and continues the story in a way that fixes their problems, if that makes sense. I think this movie does it beautifully. Also, the Skywalker saga comes full circle in this movie, and I did not expect them to be able to do that. I even posted on Twitter the other day that the sequel trilogy, as it stands after The Last Jedi, will be probably the most disjointed and most frustrating trilogy of the bunch. Thankfully, for me anyway, this movie fixes this trilogy as best as it can. I still think it's a very flawed trilogy, and it's definitely not my favorite trilogy of the bunch. But to me, because of The Rise of Skywalker, it's not a bad trilogy now. And I will say, I prefer The Rise of Skywalker over the previous two movies, and I do like Force Awakens. But this one, to me, at this point, I think was great. I really do. Let's skim over the characters a little bit. Rey has always been called like a Mary Sue. She's always had some major issues with a lot of the fans. This movie, again, it fixes a lot of those problems. It really does. It builds her up as a character and makes her, it makes her earn it. She is the most important character of this movie. This movie rides on her shoulders. Her shoulders and Kylo Ren played beautifully this time around by Adam Driver. I think of the three movies, they get Kylo Ren the best in this one. He definitely has a full arc throughout this trilogy, and I think he redeems himself. As far as like the original cast from the original trilogy, all I'll say is this movie honors all of them in different ways, and more importantly, more satisfying ways. Why don't I keep doing this with my hands? Also, quick note on Poe and Finn. If you remember, those two characters I really had problems with in The Last Jedi, and especially Finn. Finn to me had kind of a repetitive storyline in the last two movies. In this movie, I really enjoyed the character finally. He's not doing the same old, same old. He is very heroic in this movie. And John Boyega does such a great job in this, actually. I have to give him major credit. Same thing with Oscar Isaac in this. Loved the hell out of him in this movie. I thought he was very one-note in The Last Jedi. He's more like he was in The Force Awakens in this movie. There is this brand new character. I heard some complaints about some of the new characters. I honestly didn't have a problem with them. I think it's okay to introduce new characters into the Star Wars saga. If you think back, every single movie in this saga introduces new characters. Even The Return of the Jedi, which was the closing chapter in that trilogy, introduced the Ewoks. So it doesn't surprise me that they introduced a couple of new characters in this movie. And there's this character, Zori, who had these dealings with Poe Dameron in the past, and I actually enjoyed her quite a bit, played by Kerry Russell. This movie spends 95% of its time on the core characters. If that's what you're worried about, this movie spending way too much time on new characters, no, it doesn't. It really focuses on the characters at hand. If you'll notice, I'm not talking about Palpatine. If you've seen the trailers, you know that Palpatine is in this movie in some form or another, and I'm not going to tell you how much he's in this movie, but I will say I'm happy. That's all I'm going to say. So guys, it's hard for me to give a rating after I just walked out of this movie. I literally said this in the car on my way here. Right now, this movie, as it stands, is a trap on an island for me. I didn't find a single issue. I went into this with the lowest of expectations and was blown away, actually, by how successfully it closed the arc on the Skywalker saga. And if you're looking for a little bit of fan service, a little bit of chill bump action, definitely in this movie. And I'm going to leave you with this, because the Star Wars franchise is one of the most emotional franchises in terms of fans. People get into physical fights over this franchise because of opinions. And I will say this to you, never, ever apologize for an opinion, because opinions are like emotions, and emotions can change. Anyway, guys, that's my non-spoiler review. I will put out a spoiler review over the next few days because there's a lot to break apart and discuss in this movie. I definitely want to see it again, too. I would recommend that you see it at least twice. Also, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day, and on Fridays we do Free for Fridays. Follow me at Drumdums on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and Drumdum out.